Hello everybody, welcome to DumDum VR. We're a guy who doesn't know what he's talking about, blabs about VR games on the internet. With Esper 2 releasing just last month, I wanted to give my thoughts on the first Esper, which was released in April last year. Also, I think it was on sale recently, so it was a win-win for me. This is a puzzle game, sort of a narrative game if you kind of follow along with the story that they lead you in. Actually they describe it as a puzzle game set entirely in a single room, which that's pretty intriguing if you ask me. As one of a number of ordinary citizens who have recently been endowed with the power to move objects with their minds, you have been enrolled by the government to undertake a series of tests to show that you are in control of your powers. Okay, I guess you gotta give it a backstory, huh? Use your psychic abilities to pick up objects and solve increasingly challenging tests in order to demonstrate that you are definitely not a threat to the fragile fabric of society. If you played Portal, you're probably reading that and thinking, oh, I bet they're going to assume that I'm a threat to the fragile fabric of society. Well, you'll just have to find out. This game is a lot like Land's End, another Gear VR game, and Portal, like I said, both of which I really loved. There's no gamepad required, just uses the touchpad on the side of the Gear VR. The touchpad wasn't always responsive, especially when trying to throw objects, swiping up. But yeah, you get the hang of it as you go. The basic premise of this game is, you move the specific object it's wanting you to move around, whether it be a Rubik's Cube-like block or a ball or plenty of other objects that you're going to have to move around to finish these levels. But you move them and position them in such a way so you can get these sort of specific objects, these blocks or whatever, into the goal, these little baskets or boxes or whatever. The very first few levels really teach you the basic goal, which is just to move object A to position B. It's not very complicated in your task, but as it moves along, it starts to incorporate all these other mechanic changes and shifts, so where it's sort of pivoting on its previous ideas. And I thought it was super inventive and intuitive, and I didn't think it grew stale. Each of the I think there's 6 chapters, and each chapter is broke up into something like 4 little sub levels. And each chapter definitely introduces some new mechanic that you'll be using and having to figure out through that chapter and through those 4 levels. And in later levels, when you have multiple objects that you're trying to place, like throw this switch here, moves that thing, and then this moves over here, and the objects, they can't be locked in place. So it's kind of like a balancing act to get everything in order, and then be like super careful that you don't accidentally push an object over with another object while you're moving it around. And oh gosh, when you do that, it's the height of frustration, because you've been sitting on this one for 20 minutes and then you knock an object over and you got to start over. The overall look of the game, you can see from the video here, mimics sort of like a 70s yet futuristic style. Something like Fallout, but obviously not post-apocalyptic. The mechanics of this game can be a little bit difficult at first. They're not as intuitive as other Gear VR games I've played. You're moving in 3 dimensions, up, down, left, right, and in and out, but up and down and left and right are moved by your head, and in and out is by the touchpad. So it's like a combination of 2 different movements to try to get the object to just move through space like you want it to. I'll probably say this 1,000 times in my videos, but you really should be using headphones or earbuds. Helps you hear everything as far as the narrative goes, and which this narrator, by the way, is fantastic. I think he's got it's just great voice acting, and it is a lot like Portal in terms of his demeanor and the things he says, and how the story kind of leads you along. And of course, like I said earlier, the Portal made me just overly paranoid, thinking that whatever's behind the walls has some nefarious purpose, and eventually my powers will be used to escape instead of sitting here like a lab rat. Switches. Oh, I mentioned switches. They're oddly finicky. I don't know why. That was one of the only parts in the game that I thought it just didn't work too well. Every time I tried to click on it, I couldn't figure if there was some sort of specific zone on the Switch that I'm supposed to be pressing the touchpad on. I pretty much just had to move my head around the Switch as I frantically tapped the touchpad, and then it would eventually flip. So I don't know. Maybe you figured it out, and if you did, let me know. These 6 chapters I mentioned, they sort of increase in difficulty exponentially. Honestly, the first 4 chapters took me an hour, and the last 2 took an hour and a half. So, look, if you're stuck somewhere, just try moving as many options as you can think of. You just move things into places that you don't intuitively think would make sense, and you'll probably stumble across a solution. And you know, if you're really stuck, you can comment below, and maybe I'll have pity on you, or someone else will have pity on you. Yeah, we'll help you out. And after I figured out each puzzle too, in these complex ones, you know, I often thought, oh, that's actually really clever. How did they come up with that? Holy cow! This game, actually, I haven't even mentioned yet. It's developed by Coatsink, and they also self-published it through the Oculus store. As far as how this game performs with your phone, I run using a Samsung Galaxy S6, and I had some overheating the first time I played it, and then I turned the brightness down from the default 7 down to about 3, and after that I had no overheating, barely any screen glitching. I thought the game ran really well. It ran smoothly. Last thing I want to mention, sound design wise, I thought the music in this game was excellent. Really fit the theme they were going for, that 70s style. It's like a style of elevator music, which honestly I thought was ironically fitting because you're stuck in one room. And the in terms of sound too, the narrator was excellent and fit really well with the overall theme that they were going for. Big picture here, I would give this game like a 7 out of 10. It's definitely worth getting the demo, and if you're a fan of puzzle games, I'm guessing you would like this. I really would recommend it. It's very clever, innovates throughout. Of those 6 chapters, honestly, no 2 are alike. Thanks for watching DumDum VR. This review was sponsored by the letter E. Thank you, letter E. If you enjoyed this review, subscribe below, comment, like, share it, get involved. What did you think of Esper? Did you like it? Did you think it was terrible? Is it your favorite game on Gear VR? Let me know your thoughts. And stay tuned for more reviews from DumDum VR.